Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Brockopp side. Dora and the Lost City of Gold was directed by James Bobin, and this is a live-action feature film adaptation of the Dora the Explorer animated show, which chances are you grew up with, myself included. But this time around, Dora is a 17-year-old teenager played by Isabella Moner, who gets kidnapped by mercenaries and forced to help said mercenaries find the Lost City of Gold that her parents have been searching many years for. So it becomes this big old adventure through the jungle with her and some classmates, along with Boots the monkey, who doesn't even wear boots for more than one scene. I don't know a single person my age that didn't grow up with the original Dora show in some capacity. You know, I always enjoyed the show as a kid. You know, it wasn't like my all-time favorite Nickelodeon show that would go to Blue's Clues, but still, even with some of the nostalgia I've got for the show, I was looking forward to this movie just based on that alone. And also after going through all the Dora and the Lost City of Gold themed exhibits at VidCon this past July, which is where I got these really cool Dora and the Lost City of Gold shades, I was really looking forward to this movie, and it actually looked to be kind of promising. And, Isabella Moner I thought was a really good older Dora the Explorer. I think she captures the character near perfectly. You know, she's got the look down to a T, she's got the personality just right, you know, being this bright, happy character that's always singing songs to get through things. And we see her traveling the jungle with Boots, looking at all these different kinds of crazy exotic animals, just being super happy and friendly to all of them, and then just moving on the pathway like you'd probably see in the show. So I think she's a perfect rendition of what Dora the Explorer would probably be in her teenage years, but also I really like the parts in the very beginning of the movie where they have a younger Dora with a younger Diego, you know, the same age range as she was in the show, where they have this little moment where they're traveling through the jungle with Boots and Diego's pet jaguar, encountering Swiper the fox, and going on these fun little adventures where there it's revealed that it's all just kind of pretend make-believe stuff in these kids' heads. But even when they sit down for dinner later, Dora's just like, this food is delicioso. Can you say delicioso? But she's not actually talking to anybody, she's just talking like to the wall, and her parents are a little concerned about that. But I thought that was just a really fun little nod that's kind of paying tribute to the show, but then also kind of making fun of it at the same time, which I thought was really cool. You know, Michael Pena plays Dora's father, which I thought was a really cool addition to this movie. I don't think he's quite on top of his game comedically in this movie as he's been in other stuff, but, you know, he was still a nice addition to this live-action Dora movie. But probably the other character I really liked in this movie was the live-action Swiper the Fox, played by Benicio del Toro. You know, just having a live-action Swiper the Fox in this movie was really cool, but it was also just even better because it was Benicio del Toro voicing the character, and that was just a lot of fun just to hear Benicio del Toro, you know, do the classic lines like, "You're too late!" And as far as the plot is concerned, the movie is actually incredibly similar to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Both plots are eerily similar to one another, where the main protagonist gets kidnapped by the bad guy, has to go to Peru to rescue someone they care about, find a lost city of gold, and, you know, they go into quicksand and have these little misadventures throughout the jungle. There was even a scene that was very similar to one from Last Crusade when they actually make it to the lost city of gold. So basically what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of references and nods to Indiana Jones movies, which was to be pretty expected because, you know, they are kind of the gold standard of adventure movies that talk about treasure and lost cities and things like that. So I don't think it necessarily rips it off per se. I think it just pays heavy tribute, but gets a little too similar in some areas. And this being a live-action movie of an animated show that a lot of people in their 20s grew up with, there's going to be a lot of nods and references to the original show itself, which I definitely very much appreciated. You know, seeing Dora with the backpack and the map, because he's the map, and other stuff like that. But as I was watching the movie, there were just like this weird backlog of characters and things from the original show that I just wasn't seeing, and I figured, okay, there's no way they can reference all this stuff in one movie, right? But then there's one sequence, probably about halfway through the movie, where they literally pay tribute to everything else they have, and at that point, And I was really blown away by that because I didn't think they were gonna go down that path and, reference all this other stuff. And also the way they do it is really, really cool and is a great nod to the show itself. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but that scene was really, really good in and of itself. So for the most part, this was a really fun and enjoyable kid-friendly adventure movie based off Dora the Explorer. But I guess if I did have any legitimate problems with it, it would be that the bad guys, the mercenaries, they're really nothing special. They're these big bad guys that don't have any guns except for a couple of little pistols that they never even fire once. So, there's nothing really special about them, even though they have some really good actors in those parts. And the only other thing I took issue with, besides like a couple little things about, some high school cliches they have in there, which I'm getting kind of tired of seeing over and over again, the only thing that kind of bugged me, which is kind of from a technical standpoint, where some of the editing felt like it was just a little rushed in some areas, not like Hellboy, choppy level kinds of bad, but just some moments that feel like they were just a couple seconds too short, that they could have just fleshed out just a tiny bit longer to make the transition from scene to scene a little smoother, but that's really kind of nitpicking for the most part, but it does kind of bother me a bit. But aside from those couple little issues I had, I really had a good time with this movie overall. It kind of reminded me of the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. Neither movies are really related to one another, but they were kind of similar in that the trailers and the promotional material for both movies weren't particularly good, but then I came into both movies and they actually turned out to be a lot better than I thought they were going to be. So the last couple of, Nickelodeon TV show based nostalgic movies that they've made the last few years, they've just been pleasant surprises. So I had a great time with this movie. It was kind of fun to have some nostalgia at a show that I don't look back on too frequently, so it was kind of nice to go take a trip down that particular lane in memory lane. So all in all, Dora and the Lost City of Gold was just a fun, kid-friendly, Indiana Jones-esque adventure movie that brings a lot of nostalgia of the original show to the audience that grew up with it, myself included. So if you grew up watching Dora the Explorer, you're probably gonna have a good time with this movie if you catch all the little nods and references and just, seeing this character in a little bit of a different way than you've seen in the show. But one thing I do want to talk about real quick is that, well, now we have a live-action Dora the Explorer movie with a little bit of an older Dora, and we've had a couple of live-action Fairly OddParents movies where Timmy Turner is older. So, can we just keep this trend going and have a live-action Jimmy Neutron movie where Jimmy Neutron's like 18 and going off to college? Proper age for college, not that one episode where he went to college as an 8-year-old and nobody liked him. I just really think it'd be cool to see a live-action Jimmy Neutron. Or a live-action Danny Phantom. Nickelodeon, I'm giving you all the ideas here. Take my money! So, those are my thoughts on Dora and the Lost City of Gold. If you guys have seen this movie, or if you grew up with the show, or if you think Swiper the Fox is probably an international criminal considering he's working with mercenaries all the time, let me know down below, and we'll see you on the Brockopp side.